What is Matthew's Hope?
We are a homeless ministry.
There's no one in Matthew's Hope that works only 40 hours a week.
We do outreach on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Where you're getting showers, haircuts, medical care, mental health care, laundry services. The list goes on.
And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, we actually go out into the community and serve our homeless out in the community. We have an amazing set of volunteers that make sure that the food is there as much as possible.
They think of homelessness and how safe can that be? Our typical volunteer, the first thing you're going to notice is they're almost all women. Women between the ages of mostly 70 and 85. When you walk in, it looks more like we're going into a knitting club.
We are not a shelter.
However, for bad weather, hurricanes, cold weather, severe cold
We've had
weather.
a lot of that this year.
Had a lot this year. We fed them breakfast, lunch, dinner. We had cots for them to sleep on. We showered them. Everything you could possibly think of.
What are some other questions that you guys get a lot?
Are we funded by the government? Are we funded by the community? How are we funded? That's a huge question.
A lot of people won't ask questions. And we want people to know that we're a wide open book.
Hi, everyone. Tracy Lewis with Imagine Marketing. I'm joined by Pastor Scott, who is the CEO and founder of Matthew's Hope, and Shelley Bradford, who is the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 72 of Straight Talk No BS with Matthew's Hope, presented by Imagine Marketing, where we're going to be talking about the most frequently asked questions that Scott and Shelley hear from people in our community about what they do and the guests that they serve. So today we're going to go back to the basics and address a few of the questions you hear most often when you are speaking with community members. So let's get started. What is Matthew's Hope?
We are a homeless ministry. We are not a shelter. So we actually are a ministry that's going to help people move forward towards a life of independence and self-sustainability. And we're going to help those that we can, and those that we can't, we're going to serve them where they are.
So do the guests at Matthew's Hope
So proud of my
get
girl.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
That's a really good question. It really depends on if we have it. If we have it, and we have an amazing set of volunteers that make sure that the food is there as much as possible. So if we have it, absolutely, we try to give them, a nice warm breakfast, a lunch, and then many times they're able to take something home or to their camps wherever they go.
Does this happen every day, or are there certain days that you guys do outreaches?
We do outreach on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, we actually go out into the community and serve our homeless out in the community.
Now, keep in mind also that, we have two different campuses. So at our Brevard campus, we have a full commercial kitchen. So we can do a full breakfast.
A little more than what Orange County.
What have you. We have a dinner over there once a week. So there's a few more things that we just don't have available in our Orange County campus. But we try to really focus on giving them something other than what they're going to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And speaking of food, is there anything that the community can do to support this, to help feed?
So
guests
just like
at
Scott
Matthew's Hope.
mentioned, over here in Orange County, because we're in Orange County right now, we focus on trying to get pot meals as best as possible.
Okay.
And then that way it's going to be warm for them. So that's one of the things we try to focus on, and people bring their crock pots and then pick them up the next day or two.
Love that. And you
That's
guys
huge.
and you guys have a food pantry. And one thing that I've learned from you guys is getting the pop tops.
Yep.
But not the big
Single serve.
containers, the single serve.
Mm-hmm.
So people can also bring in those items for the food pantry as well.
That's huge. And we list those constantly on our Facebook
Which is very
page.
important, right?
Right. We try to keep that on our, we have a general list that's on our website, and then we try to let our most immediate needs know, literally a couple times a week. Something else that we always ask for is, so as Shelley was saying, on Tuesdays and Thursdays is when we have our outreach services where you're getting showers, haircuts, medical care, mental health care, laundry services. The list goes on. And then we have our 2 mobile days. But on any of those days, if somebody wanted to make, say, breakfast sandwiches or breakfast burritos, especially for Orange County, where they don't have the capacity to do that, that is huge when we're able to do that and take out something warm. But we would welcome that in both Brevard and Orange County, because not that we don't have the space, but you also have a capacity of what your staff can do.
Sure.
Okay. And we run, there's no one in Matthews Hope that works only 40 hours a week. So you try to be very conscious of that.
And you have volunteers as well, Shelley?
Yes, absolutely. That is how Brevard and Orange County are run on outreach days for sure. We couldn't do it just our staff. I mean, we'd figure it out, right? But the volunteers are key.
We'd be dead afterwards.
Right. Definitely.
We'd have to go home.
You had mentioned volunteers. A couple of things I want to say about that is number one is most of who you see on a Matthews Hope campus in a black shirt is a volunteer. Our staff is about 50 people between our two locations. But once you set aside the medical teams, we have two different stores. Like today, we're at our Hope Chest store in Orange County. We have mental health care people. Once you start pulling those out, there's about 9 people at each location, and it takes more like 50 at each location. So when you walk into our facility, mostly what you see is volunteers. What you're also going to notice is a lot of people are surprised by, because they think of homelessness and, well, how safe can that be? Our typical volunteer, the first thing you're going to notice is they're almost all women.
Retired
Women between the ages of mostly 70 and 85. Okay, so how dangerous is Matthews Hope? Now, on top of that, at each location, each outreach center, we have about 50 cameras that have facial recognition at 300 feet, where there's not much we can't see. Now, we don't have time to sit there and monitor everything, but if something were to happen, we have a tape to go back and look at.
And we have.
Right.
We have
and we have.
Yeah.
And it's usually not things between our volunteers.
Never.
It's
No.
usually between two guests.
Yes.
Okay. Someone says he did this or they did that, what have you. And 99% of the time, that's not what happened. But we're able to go back and show that's not what happened.
Sure.
But with that also, we do, and then not everybody does this. In fact, most don't do it. We do a background check on every single person that walks in our facility.
Oh.
Okay. So we aren't looking for ways to disqualify people, but the truth is the only people that do get disqualified are sexual offenders. Okay. But if somebody has a history of something, we're going to know that history and
You're going to know how to work with them.
yeah, approach it appropriately. Okay.
And get them the help that they need.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we may say to them, hey, because they've had to sign off that they know we're going to do a background check.
Mhm.
And so they're mostly aware of what that's going to say. And a lot of times they'll say something to us up front, or we'll go back to them and say, hey, we saw you had this incident, 2 years ago, blah, blah, blah. And just get a feel for what we're dealing with. So if we know that we have a volatile personality or someone that is possibly bipolar or schizophrenic, we're going to approach that a little different than we are. And that's one thing that is a big challenge for organizations, because especially organizations that don't deal with homelessness on a daily basis, is you can't often recognize someone with schizophrenia or bipolar just at face value. That reveals itself over time.
Yeah.
And some of these folks will flat out tell you, this is what, are you on your meds? No, I'm not. Okay. Well, now we know, do we want to try to help them get back on their meds? Use our psychiatric nurse practitioner or one of our mental health people to talk with them. So a lot is going on to keep it safe between the cameras, the background checks. But I always joke about how dangerous it is to serve at Matthews Hope because when you walk in, it looks more like we're going into a knitting club.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah, we should have a lot of Afghans standing around,
Yeah, it depends on the
contests to
time
probably
of year.
do that. Yeah.
Might be
Yeah.
a good crowd. So you guys mentioned the black shirts for the volunteers. Shelley, what is the significance? Because I've seen gray shirts. I've seen different colored shirts. What do they mean?
Sure. So the black shirts mean that you're either a staff or a volunteer. The gray shirts, they're kind of a silvery gray. That is going to be for our guests that are working around on the property. And even if you're just working for the day, you have to have on a shirt.
Is it? And if you read our magazine or you go to our website or follow us on Facebook, you'll see pictures of our guests mixed in with our volunteers. That is done for a lot of different reasons. One is we're trying to rehumanize people, number one. Number two, let them interact. A lot of these folks have not been spoken to in a kind way for a long time.
So
And a lot of times the volunteers, especially newer ones, may be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How to start that conversation.
Sure.
By week 2, you would think they've known each other for 30 years.
Yeah.
because they probably have shared everything they can. It's like going to camp. Okay. They've been a week at camp at Matthews Hope, and suddenly they're like, now there's some upsides and downsides to that. There's times when volunteers want to do something that we forbid. If you want to get dismissed as a volunteer at Matthews Hope, we forbid that you personally interject yourself in anybody's life by offering them benefits outside of us, giving them a ride, giving them money, give them anything, because that is not how it's going to work. Our goal is to move them towards that life of independence, self-sustainability, or if that's not possible for whatever reason, what can we do to improve their quality of life? And when people enable through those things, even other organizations, it really sets us back.
It does. It sets the guests back.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were not a shelter or an overnight shelter. Why are you not an overnight shelter?
First, I don't want to be.
I like my sleep.
Yeah, it could be like
sleep.
there's a lot to running a shelter, and if we had a shelter, we'd run it very different. Nothing against the ones that are out there. We just have a very different way that we would approach it. What we are, though, Shelley mentioned earlier that, in our opening, that we are not a shelter. However, for bad weather, hurricanes, which we seem to have a lot of in Florida now,
Cold weather,
severe
We've
cold
had
weather.
a lot of that this year.
Had a lot this year. I think we've been in 13 days. Plus, now Orange County did a few more, right? So I think 13 days in Brevard County, 15 or so over in Orange County, that we were 24/7 shelters. So we sheltered people from the elements for 24 hours at a time. We fed them breakfast, lunch, dinner. We had cots for them to sleep on. We showered them. Everything you could possibly think of. Even at some point, we do some entertainment.
Oh yeah.
We played. I don't think we did it recently.
Homeless karaoke.
Homeless karaoke is my favorite. It's a lot of fun. But here's something different from the past, though. In the past, folks came in and we had to kind of entertain them because they're used to being in their camp. They're doing their thing, whatever. This past year, both during the hurricane when we opened and when we opened as cold weather shelter, people were ready to go to sleep by 7:30
because they're just exhausted.
They're exhausted.
Yeah.
With the new laws in place. Yeah, with these new laws in place, they can't. They're getting woken up sometimes 2 and 3 times a night, and you can't be here. You can't be here. And two bad things about this new law that hit Florida is, number one, is people are becoming, their anxiety level is rising exponentially because they're not getting proper rest. And so they're responding more poorly when a police officer tries to move them along.
Yeah.
Again, when they say, well, that's not right. Well, let me come into your house, in your own house, and wake you up 2 or 3 times a night and see how that works out by the 3rd or 4th day that I do that. You're going to get a little grumpy.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's also the really sad part is we have a lot of these folks that are working, and they're working the jobs you and I don't want. They're working often well into the night. They're cleaning places. They're cooks. They're the guys that do your restaurant or whatever. The point is being, what happened is they try to get some rest. They get arrested. They're no call, no show, and they lose their job. I can't tell you how many times that has happened already. There are people that were really trying to get ahead, trying to do everything they could, and they lost their job because they got in trouble for sleeping outside. Just a side note.
Yeah.
What are some other questions that you guys get a lot?
Who pays for this?
Yeah. How are we funded? Are we funded by the government? Are we funded by the community? How are we funded? That's a huge question.
Well, I'm going to let you answer most of this, but I want to just say one thing.
Please.
There is no such thing as government funding. Our government produces nothing. They only spend money. So let's
tax dollars.
It's your taxpayer dollars. Okay. So let's just, now I want you to answer the rest of it, but I always hear this government funding, and I used to fall into it myself.
Sure.
Saying we didn't take government funding.
I guess I never thought of that before.
Yeah. Well, what do you know the government produces?
Yeah.
Ever. Under any administration.
So, on that note,
carry on.
We are mainly funded by the community. We have in recent days started, looking at more and more grants. I think we're just not, I don't think that we're going to have an option not to in the end, and so we're very picky on the grants that that we are going to choose. It's not been an easy road to walk down, for sure, because the grants are very highly scrutinized, which is a difficult thing as well.
Which the scrutiny aspect of it isn't a big deal. We got
No, of
nothing to
course
hide.
not. No, 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 no.
But what happens is there's so many layers of craziness. When they talk about government waste, the government is who's actually doing the waste.
And the waste, the waste, I can tell you from my own personal experience, the amount of time of my own personal time that I'm being paid for, and the amount of time that the individual that I'm working with, and I don't necessarily fault her. This is what she's been told to do, but she's looking to make sure every penny matches as it should, right? But the scrutiny that we are under, and the I guess that's probably not the right word, but the things that she finds, I just want to go, seriously right now. We paid that, but like the most recent thing is when our payroll system goes by the quarter hour. Well, so let's say I paid this employee 25.15 hours, but or that's what they worked. But I have to pay them up to the 25.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take the time to go in and change his timesheet,
Oh, no.
and it had to be to the 25 of what I paid him.
Okay.
Why do they care?
Okay.
Or
I paid it. Why do they care?
someone not working 40 hours one week, but had to work, say they work 37 hours this week
Yes. Yeah.
and they work 43 the next week. Why are you paying them
Why?
overtime?
Right.
They only, together, it's still 80 hours. Well, because you want to say to them, well, the government set this up,
Right.
is after 40, and you don't do it on 2-week periods. It's a 1 week time period. So it's little things like that that can often knock that grant off by weeks, if not months, to run through the system again.
It's very challenging.
And we as an organization,
Don't have
it's all reimbursable money also.
Yes. It's money we've already spent.
Yes. So we have to spend it first. Then we have to justify it to get it returned to us. So this is why for the first almost 14 years, I refused to do any. They had to even turn down grants that we've been offering. And we came to a point the last couple of years realizing that when you're growing by millions of dollars a year and hundreds, if not thousands of additional people a year, we had to look at additional funding. And so we do pick and choose how much control it's going to give them.
Yeah.
And how much effort and work are we going to have to put in? And each county is different we work at. Some it's much simpler. Orange County is pretty difficult, but it's also got a lot of stuff there.
Sure.
And like most of these groups, again, as we get rid of people, they're understaffed. And so, if you get knocked down to the end of the bottom of the pile, it really doesn't matter to anybody. So we have floated upwards of well over $500,000, which we don't have. We've been fortunate that we've had donors that have walked with us through this process, and now we're kind of in a flow. But even when the stoppage was put on a few weeks ago, two things hurt us. One was that other groups were sending people to us because they were afraid to spend money.
Yeah.
Because they were fully funded by those federal taxpayer dollars. And the other part was what little money that we had tied to any kind of taxpayer dollars was being put on hold. And so that gets really tricky for us.
And then starting it back up took a process.
It's like restarting a locomotive that came to a stop.
Yeah.
They may have only stopped it for a few days, but it could take a few weeks to get that thing fully up to steam again.
Yeah.
Do you guys get any other questions about the operation of Matthew's Hope?
Daily. I mean, people.
What would they be?
Look, let's touch on some interesting things. Everything that we have is public record. Number one, we invite people to go to GuideStar.org, and they can look at our 990s. They can look. You want to know how much I get paid? It's there. We have people that like to take that information and put it out in the public
And twist it, I'm sure.
and twist it in very interesting ways. And So there's times where you go, are you a government watchdog? What is your hope in doing this? Because typically it hurts us because a lot of people won't ask questions. And we want people to know that we're a wide open book, ask questions, but I'm not going to debate things with you on social media. You want to come into our office, I will meet with anybody. Shelley's happy to meet with anybody. If you want to look at our financials, you can go to GuideStar and do that. I'm not going to sit there and take the time and say, Shelley, have someone on our staff
Right.
print out all our financials so this bozo can look at it.
Well, and I was actually recently approached asking why we didn't use another platform and why did we use this platform? Do you know how much time it takes to upload all that stuff? So if we tell you where to go, there's your answer.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not, we're large enough. Here's the challenge we have. We have been understaffed for years. And we have grown for 15 straight years. And we haven't grown by a little bit. We've grown by
a lot.
We're twice as big as we were just 3 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. That's incredible growth. If we were in corporate America, I would be on the cover of Forbes magazine. Okay. But we're in the nonprofit world. And people sometimes congratulate me, oh, Scott, and I go, wait a minute, hold on. Do you know the only reason we've
Are
grown?
they thinking about why
Are we
growing?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I start naming the numbers and they're astonished by that. Well, again, because that's not something now when I say it's not something that generally is shared with the public on what's really going on. And so that's part of
They just see the growth.
Yeah.
They just,
they assume.
as impressive as it might be to the common eye, it's really kind of a sad growth.
Absolutely. It means
It's a very sad growth.
Homelessness. Will you guys be adding a third campus? Because you're in Brevard County, you're in Orange County. Is there any talk or thought of adding another campus to help more homeless in other places?
Is there talk about it? Not by us necessarily.
Yeah.
We're getting questioned a lot. We're having a lot of areas asking us to come to their area. And it's not that we're opposed to it. I think that generally people don't realize. Give an example. When I agreed to open in Brevard, we had a particular angel investor, as I call him or them, and that I said 3 things have to happen: buy the property, renovate the property, and then support the property for at least 3 years while we build our donor base. When that finally came out, that is probably about a $15 million investment.
Yeah.
Okay. And people aren't just hanging around with $15 million to ask us to do that. And it takes time. Now we're building the donor base in Brevard. And quite honestly, we're coming up on our 3rd year, June 1st. And people are coming by and they're getting behind us, but it takes a while because it's a proofing concept.
Mm.
It's showing that you're going to enhance the community rather than, the big concern is we're going to bring property prices down and stuff. In fact,
And we had that fight. We've had
that fight every place we've been.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's always been proven that you go to a Matthews Hope campus, it's going to be nicer than many homes you're going to walk into.
Mm-hmm.
But people,
Your bathroom's cleaner than mine.
It better be.
Excuse me. It's funny you said that. When Charlie and I went on vacation, we're having some renovations done to the house, and we have natural gas. And so they had to shut off all the natural gas. So that means the showers were out. The heat was, everything's out, right? And so Charlene's daughter, Sarah, lives with us. She also works with us, but she lives with us. And so we're out of the country, and it's during the summer, right? And so Sarah decides to go up to Matthews Hope and shower there.
Mm-hmm.
And we get this note: hey, the showers at Matthews Hope are nicer than at home. What can we do to do something more to our showers at home? And, because we've got the, what do they call it? The rain showers in there, what have you. And they're very spaceful, and they're very private. And, but, again, one of the things that, in fact, Mark, who you work with, one of the first things Mark has said to me over and over again when we first got together with Imagine, and that was, Scott, your bathrooms are so incredibly clean.
Okay.
And I said, Mark, the reason for that is not, number one is why should they not be? Okay. They're people just like us. But number two, we're going to be judged on everything people see.
All the time.
If it's a dirty bathroom, it's a dirty place. If outside, if our landscaping is off, the assumption is that we don't care. Yeah. And so instead, when you go by one of our properties, you're going to find inside and out. And she will tell you, I walk through all the time and we do a walkthrough and I'm going, okay, we got to paint this wall again. We got to fix that. She almost doesn't need me anymore. And quite honestly, because she's got that same critical eye now. Mm-hmm. But she understands the purpose of it. There's a reason Shelley's in the position she is. She can tap into my brain. She understands when I say we're going to do all things with excellence. And I would challenge out to any other nonprofit out there. If you can't do it with excellence, don't do it.
Just don't do it. Right.
Okay. But those are things, again, we're asked about. Some of the goofiest things we're asked about. Mm-hmm. People were concerned about all the electricity. Well, how much money you're using? Well, here's what's really interesting. In the Brevard property, we did it when we built out the Orange property, it was done. Brevard was a renovation, about a $5 million renovation. And one of the things we did is we put in natural gas. Okay. It took us a while to get it done. We ran because a line had to run under a major highway, US 1.
Wow.
It had to run like 100 yards down our property to get to where they were going. We did natural gas. Okay. So that's a great savings and it's better for our environment. We did all LED lighting. We did all these things. And here's what's interesting. Our electric bill in a place that's now used pretty much 7 days a week, our electric bill is less than the previous owner was in 2018. And they were there Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights.
Wow. That's incredible.
Okay. But again, these are things that you can sit there, that old saying, pay me now or pay me later. We really try to look at what's the biggest bang for the buck. How do we stretch, be a good steward, mm-hmm. Yeah, of the gifts that are given to us.
That's great. Well, thank you guys for all of that information. It was very insightful. I hope everybody listening shares this with their friends so we can get this word out. So like, share, comment, ask us any questions that you have, and we'll see you guys next time.
Sounds great.